Mr. Tate rolled a 6.
I'll kill you with my bare hands if I have to.
Nat freaking 20. Is everything functioning properly? Is everything functioning properly? I hope things are functioning properly. They function properly. Functioning properly. I'm going to check if everything seems to be functioning properly. Yes, I think everything is functioning properly. I'm tiny. Hey, you lumpy-headed monstrosities. Welcome back to, where are we right now? Are we really in Drunken and Dragons? We're hidden. We're in a side shoot of a maintenance shaft of the interwebs. And Al Gore is not here to save you. Okay, why are we here and there's 5 of us? Why are all 5 of us here? Well, I expect that more of the ICRPG Google Plus peoples will be finding this stream in coming days. So for right now, the 6 of us can wring our hands with giddy delight of how few there are of us to see the secrets. All right, wow. Wow, getting a little strained. Okay, so let me just put this over here. Hey guys, what's the big hullabaloo, you ask? What's the fracas? Is this some kind of an online debacle? I'll tell you what's going on. This World's book is getting some traction right up in here. Okay, so let's think about some stuff. Oh, queso. Queso. So delicious. Let's think about something crazy for just a second. ICRPG was only released 4 effing months ago. 4 months. That's it. That's nothing. I didn't even know Dungeon World existed until it had already been out for 2 freaking years. And I'm all over this junk. So, wow, you guys are the early adopters. And if you're sitting in this stream right now, all 8 of you, you are the early adopters. You are the hardcore mofos. And I salute you. Right there. So, it's only been 4 months. My goal when I set out on this journey was to release a book of equal substance and price as the first book every 6 months and 4 total books. That's what I wanted to do. I knew the contents in my head, at least at the subconscious level, or what I like to call the pre-conscious level. Wow, sorry, I got a little bit of the sillies today. Things are a little weird. But anyways, so that's coming up, and I need to pay my bills as well, and I also need to get this creative vision out. That's really the biggest thing making me go crazy right now, is like Ghost Mountain, in particular, has been brewing for much longer than I've been talking about it. And so now it's bubbling out of the pot. I have to just deliver this sucker. Okay, so what I wanted to do is put up this unlisted video only for you guys who hang out in the Google Plus group, which is, I think we're almost to 800 people now, so that's fantastic. But it's not just that you're hanging out and that you're sort of audience members or something. That is reductive to this group of people. And as you well know, this is an active living game that we are creating and like bringing into the world together. Now, especially, I think the timing feels good right now. RPGs are growing wonderfully, but also I think the community of what is sometimes called indie or DIY RPGs is growing as well. And to me, it reminds me the most of the old days. In the old days, you could play what was then called a mainstream RPG, and you actually felt like what nowadays is kind of the more indie scene. And that means like we're kind of working on it together. We're kind of stumbling through parts, and you know, we're all one big playtest community, and it's all driving forward, and it feels a little less industrial, and that's how I like it. So anyways, I salute you guys for showing up so early. I mean, you probably, maybe you haven't, but There's no ICRPG on Amazon, right? There's a reason for that, because we're going to put a year of work into this game before we start going to a bigger audience. That's what I mean by like, we are the early of the early. You guys are the early of the early. And to have such active minds working on it together is the route to kicking huge amounts of RPG ass. So, what's going on? Today, I wanted to bring you guys together, and I wanted to partially sort of drop some pants, just pull the pants down and have a parade, as I like to say, which means sort of show where I am in the creative process. And then also, it's a little bit of a call, too. So, in the next couple of months, I'm going to be bringing the World's Book into the station. And the most useful thing to me right now, besides just the enthusiasm that you guys provide, is seeing other people's games unfold. It is hugely informative. I mean, hugely. And it's more data than I would ever be able to gather on my own. So like the great streams that Roll for Effort is putting up, the Ultimate Effort podcast, and then sort of photos and stories like from Hatley's Bar Game and other stuff like this. Anything that you guys can provide, any story, any problem, any triumph, anything that happens with the game is all funneling into making it better, but also into what Worlds will become and how Worlds can be the most useful possible book. So I don't know about you guys, but a lot of times I'll get like a sort of a source or supplement type book, and I don't get like the utility out of it that I want. It's really neat, but I don't get that like utility, like something I actually want to have at the table. And I'm really working on capturing that. Okay, so anyways, there it is. I think it's going to be a great book. The art is really starting to come together. I'm very happy about that. And the sort of final phase before the sort of boring technical stuff is the book building, and that's where I am right now. So I have almost all the writing done. Not that much of the art, maybe a tenth or an eighth of the art done, and now I'm actually building the book. So I wanted to give you guys sort of a little bit of an inside peek, and then we got about an hour to talk today. And then for the second half, I'd like to talk about this monster question that we've been bringing up. So let's hop into Photoshop real quick, and I want to sort of sneak peek you on some madness. Okay, so as many of you know, the book contains 3 worlds. There's Alfheim, there's Warp Shell, and there's Ghost Mountain. Now let me just get Warp Shell right out of the way. Warp Shell I have sort of designated as the one-shot setting. The concept of materializing in one place and being in another, it's just perfect for one-shots. Even if your characters last through the one-shots, it just kind of rebuggers the whole situation, each adventure. And so I wrote that whole section of the book with one-shots in mind. So all of the Warp Shell adventures included. There are 40 adventures, and they're all sort of written like one-shots. So I'm not going to show you stuff from Warp Shell tonight, because that is all sort of over here. Okay, so now, the way that Warp Shell is all themed around one-shots, Alfheim and Ghost Mountain also have their themes. So the decision I made, and this was like a lot of agonizing over this, but then once I started doing it, it came together. Alfheim I've built into a sandbox world. So I know that everyone has challenges with hex crawling and travel and sandboxing in general, and making it fun, making it as fun as a more railroady game, right? And so I'm a little bit like aghast at myself here, but I basically set out on a mission to make a kick-ass sandbox world, and that world is Alfheim. And so what I did is I used all this map work that I did and pulled it together with some simple systems that are in the book that I'm not going to show quite yet, to get you moving around the world of Alfheim freely and sort of improvising adventures. For tonight, I just wanted to really quickly show you guys the map, which is now complete. So the version that's used in the book is sort of more black and white, like, the book's style. But the package, when you get Worlds, will also include this massive super high-res map, which can be printed at obscene sizes, especially on canvas. So here you are, and it looks like, oh, this is the map. This is actually one tiny corner of the map. So now I'm going to zoom out. There we go. There's the map. So a lot of these locations are familiar to you guys because of the old Alfheim map. And it's still true to all that data. But now there's a ton more data. And in the book, you get a sort of a breakdown on each region. So, boop, here are the regions. So this is also in the book. So you have 16 regions or 16 kingdoms. And then with each one, you have rules on how supplies are consumed, what the borders are like, what the roads are like, what kind of monsters you should just go up against. Not random encounters, just fight these things. It's like, hey, we have to travel across Kath. Okay, you're probably going to take the road. You're going to go through Hal, which is from Eyes of Set, and you're probably going to fight these shambler things. Instead of making it a bunch of tables and a bunch of stuff, it's far simpler and kind of matter of fact. Now, if we kind of move in, so that's 50%. There's a lot of resolution in here. So there's just one little piece I wanted to sort of highlight before we move on. This is 100%, which is this little part of the map. So something fascinating has been happening in the recent, month or so. This is another crazy thing, is that I haven't even been on Patreon for a month yet, and that just is already blowing my mind too. Like, I don't know, just things are happening very quickly. Already some creative accidents have happened between playing one-shots with people, Patreon, ICRPG games that are happening, and some writing work that I'm doing, and the World's Book, and there's sort of all these threads are crossing, and in this one particular screen that you're seeing here, the threads are really crisscrossing. So you see down in the south, well, here, I'll put it in the middle of the screen. You see the little fighting arena there, the little gladiatorial arena? It's at the Arleston Crossroads, right? And this is a big crossroads because of where Nordheim is and where Grey is and the political sort of landscape in this area, and you can read all about that and build adventures. But New Haven up here, this is the town from the sort of room design that's on YouTube, that's now the focal point or starting point of the novel that's being written only for Patreon. And then accidentally I created my new character, Chain, in an unrelated AbTab game last week. And he sort of got killed, unfortunately. But he also, I realized I really wanted to explore that character in great depth. And that character is also going to be as part of the World's Book. And so everything is starting to knit together in the most exciting way as a creative person. So anyways, I just wanted to show you that little section. And here's some more of the map. Here's the whole dwarven kind of zone down here. I mean, look at these. This is kind of give you a sense of how ridiculous every one of those little skeletons is drawn by hand. So you're going to have a lot to do in here. And I kind of imagined a world where it would be fun to basically do a lap. Like do a lap in this world, and maybe it could be a year of gaming to do it. But not, I need to provide you tables so that you can travel through Kath 40 times and it's never the same time twice. I didn't take that approach. I took the approach of like, yeah, do an adventure through like 4 or 5 locations in Kath, and they'll all be different, and then move on to the Deadlands and do 2 things there, and then go to, like Disneyland. You don't need to go to Disneyland and it's different every time. So anyways, there is the epic, humongous, overdone nut job map that I did for Alfheim. I've never done anything so nutso and time consuming as this. I just don't do those style projects. So anyways, there's a sneak peek there. So all this stuff's going to be in the book, and it's all broken into pieces. So next, this character that I was talking about, a lot of you guys have seen it in some posts that I've been doing, but here's the line art for the sort of the miniature for Chain. And Chain has sort of more to him. He's a central character for the Burning in New Haven, but for reasons that I'm not going to reveal quite yet, that belong only on Patreon. So I hate to use that vice as a shameless plug, but as many of you that can go over and pledge on Patreon, it is the way to keep me working. Like YouTube is pretty good, book sales are great, and Patreon, I have a feeling, is the future of how this process that we're doing together right now is going to continue to be healthy and be constant. It's a lot of work, but man, is it a blast. So anyways, there's Chain, and I was kind of experimenting with doing some colored pawns on a color printer and seeing what I think, just because I love Black Magic Crafts miniatures and Wylox miniatures so much. So as a bit more of a get to the good stuff reveal here, guys, I wanted to show you some of the characters from Ghost Mountain. So I'm going to be pretty tight-lipped about Ghost Mountain on some of the wider fronts, but I did want to reveal some of the character stuff to you guys, just so you can kind of see where I'm headed. Okay, so the first one I already kind of revealed. in the Google Plus group. So I can just, here, let me pull up some other things. So you guys probably saw this in the Google Plus group. But yeah, here's just a screen grab of InDesign while I'm building the classes. And so with the Gunslinger, you have a sort of an obvious but sort of kick-ass class. And I basically wanted to build a Fan the Hammer type character rather than just a mega deadly sharpshooter type character. So he's got these abilities that give me that kind of fow kind of an effect. So anyways, there's the Gunslinger. And there's the character art for him. Next we have this awesome old lady. So I wasn't sure if she was going to be a tracker or if she was going to be an old timer, which is another class. I wasn't quite sure. I just knew I wanted this character. Like she just sort of got back from safari in Africa and got sucked into Ghost Mountain, or maybe she never came back from her safari. That's kind of the big mystery of Ghost Mountain, is how you get there. But anyways, I just think she's totally awesome and I really like her. She just hasn't found her home quite yet. So sometimes heroes like that just wind up in the standee collection for a player to choose and bring to life. Oh yeah, here we have the old timer. So there are basically two new kinds of magic in Ghost Mountain. There's Holy and Infernal. And this is your Holy caster right here. He's the only character who can cast Holy magic. And he can only cast Holy magic, so it's a very specialized class. And I imagine him sort of like a Vincent Price type character from the old Vampire Hunter kind of stuff. But, you know, back in my day, everybody was a vampire. That kind of stuff. Next we have the Shaman. So the Shaman I wanted to do as a very tribal, mysterious, sort of animalistic character. So you kind of have this hood with ears and antlers and this kind of dream catchery kind of a theme. And this is good old whiz powers. So she is not using the new Holy and Infernal. She's kind of keeping it on the level with the sort of nature power and stuff like that. But with some spins that you guys are going to find out as we go. Okay, who do we have here? Okay, now we're just jumping around. This is Drum. This is one of the other characters from A Burning in New Haven. So there's really three sort of main characters. There's Chain, Drum, and Vig. And this is Drum, and he's known to have like 5 bows with him and a crossbow and like 50 arrows. And basically I made a small folk archer who is kind of like way over-equipped. And then his sidekick is Vig. Yeah, here's Vig, who has like everything. He has his hodgepodge and kind of ruined. And he has this massive sort of legendary mustache that people talk about in different towns. His mustache is more famous than he is. But he's a real kind of morally ambiguous character, real hard ass. So that is the Burning in New Haven, guys. And as you can see, I just draw all this stuff in the same little canvas. Oh, look at this guy. This is a tracker. So the bioforms in Ghost Mountain are human, Infernal, Smoke, and Wolf. And the Infernals are basically sort of people who have either been there too long or committed too many dark deeds or gotten too close to what's called the Hollow, and they start basically turning into these sort of skeletal demonic creatures. And that's a bioform, not a class. So you could have any class. You could have an Infernal Gambler, you could have an Infernal Gunslinger, you could have an Infernal Wraith, and so on and so forth. And the combos, as you guys well know, are where things get really, really interesting. But here we have an Infernal Tracker smoking a cigarette. Okay, now here we have is this guy a Wraith? Yeah, this is a Wraith. So, and this is sort of a human transitioning to an Infernal. But the Wraiths are also, they are the Infernal caster. And so it's actually Infernal magic sort of begins to tear them apart. And they become these sort of phantasmal creatures. And so I wanted to do this kind of, this old duster on this caster. And he's still got his 6-shooter, but he's, casting this sort of black magic. And I think this one really gives you a sense for what Ghost Mountain feels like. It's this supernatural western with a sort of a dark side to it. And this is my absolute favorite. This is the Brave. So the Brave is a knife fighter. So what I wanted to do was make a character class that was kind of like the archer in Alfheim, but melee. And not diverse melee like the blade, but very specific melee. And in this case, knife fighting. And so I imagine these Heppewa Indians who are just badasses. They're super quick and kind of use unconventional moves. And then I was trying to figure out how to put the right spin on this character, and she kind of came to mind, and she's just awesome. I think she's going to be like a key to the storyline with Hat Martins and everything, because I'm in love with this character. I want to be this character. There's something about her is just so hardcore. Okay, now here's what I posted up today, The Gambler. So this is my sort of caricature of Kenny Rogers, but as a badass. And so you guys probably saw the post on the Google Plus group. The Gambler basically twists all the mechanics on their head and uses a deck of cards rather than dice, if he chooses, to do a bunch of his resolution in the game. And what I wanted to do was maybe even think about a group that was all gamblers. So you'd have an infernal gambler, you'd have a wolf gambler. Wolf is kind of a nickname, by the way. It's sort of these big, sort of barely human creatures. You could have a smoke gambler, which they're these kind of spectral creatures. But just the idea even of an infernal gambler is just too damn good. I mean, that's to have a human gambler and an infernal gambler sort of sitting at a table together. Oh, come on. How good is that? That's awesome. So, and that's actually a hint of some bigger mechanics in Ghost Mountain that involve cards and card themes. But for now, I'm going to have to stay tight-lipped about it. But this is pretty sweet. He's trying to get out of town with his suitcase of money, and he's getting ready to draw. Always got an ace in his pocket, too. I'm so taken, actually, with the whole ace theme. If you guys bump into me at any of the cons coming up this year, my new business cards are aces now. So I'm really all about this sort of ace gambler thing. So that's a segue I'm not quite ready to do. Hang on. Big and then chain. Okay, cool. So that's all I'm showing for today. That leaves a few stones unturned, but that's okay. So on that ace note, that's my next little announcement, is that, as you guys may have noticed, I will be at Tucson Comic-Con on November 3rd, 4th, and 5th. I'm going to have a hotel the whole time in Tucson. So if you're a short drive from Tucson, you should totally come and crash. And I am going to be running a game at Tucson Comic-Con as well as doing some talks. But the game I'm going to run is going to be Ghost Mountain. So if you can come and meet me at the con, it's probably the first time, barring you guys making up some Ghost Mountain games, which I wouldn't be surprised, that you can kind of sit down with me and play Ghost Mountain. And that means all the mechanics, including this sort of end-of-day mechanic called the Devil's Measure. Basically, the fate of this entire game world hangs in the balance at the end of each session. So at the end of each session, the campaign has a chance to end. And that, welcome to Ghost Mountain. So anyways, that's part of what's going to be going on in Tucson. That's a little peek. And then for a real juicy one here, I wanted to show you guys this. This is this is a love bomb here. So this is the book building on those 4 classes that I was just showing you. So I don't know if the resolution on the stream is good enough or anything for you to glean all the class data here, but it just feels so good to finally get classes built out and get to see the book coming together with new material, and it's always just so exciting. So that's just a screen grab from while I was working. And yeah, you saw the other 2. So we're good to go in there. Awesome. So you've got Warp Shell, tons of one-shots, right? Everything's crazy and on different planets all the time. Then you've got Alfheim, which is a sandbox, which means traveling is encouraged and like wandering is encouraged and player-invented goals or using the log system to make goals and stuff like that are encouraged and supported. That's Alfheim. And then finally, Ghost Mountain, you're wondering, well, what's the gimmick on the Ghost Mountain portion of the book? Well, the angle there is it's one big campaign. Hang on, my chair. That hydraulic thing that keeps your chair up is starting to wear out, and it's very slowly descending. So, what's the Ghost... Oops, I'm not supposed to move this. So the Ghost Mountain theme is, basically just a single huge campaign. and somewhat linear too, somewhat railroady in its storyline. It's the story of Hat Martin's looking for his family up on Buckskin. So Buckskin's like a town or a sort of a hunting camp up on a mountain. And what happens and how they discover the Hollow and how they discover what's really at stake in Ghost Mountain and how it began and how it's going to end and so on and so forth. So my idea there was to be able to sit down your group and play, an 8 to 12 or much longer if you get crazy about it, 8 to 15 session campaign in Ghost Mountain and get that feeling of long continuity, because I don't think that the Weird West world is going to be as wild in some ways as fantasy and sci-fi, and so I don't think in a single session you're quite going to get this deep, sublime nuance. I think it's going to happen over time. At least that's the theory that I'm putting forward with the way that I'm writing Ghost Mountain. So we'll see if it actually turns out that way. You never know what's going to happen with creative things, right? So hey, welcome everybody to the stream. If you've shown up recently, we're just going over some neato stuff, and I'm just kind of basically giving a look at worlds. Probably one gnarly question. We've got 5 more minutes here to spend on worlds that I know I've been asked in private quite a bit is when do we get this book? Well, I have to finish, I have to proof, and then I have to format, and then I have to proof. So I am aiming for the beginning of November. So hopefully that's going to work out. And then as winter sinks its icy claws into the world, we should all be hiding in our basements and playing Ghost Mountain. Or proudly sitting in our basements playing Ghost Mountain. So that's my goal. I think I'm on track for it. There's a ton of work yet to do, but once you break that initial dam and you start building the book, just one page becomes another, and before you know it, you got your 200 pages and you're good to go. So that's where I'm at on that. So yeah, wow. That is going to be here like in an hour. I know it. Everything always feels so far away, and then you start working, and then boop, it's right in your face. So while we're just going through all this kind of ICRPG laundry, because you guys are so cool, please take a little bit of time to check out the Roll for Effort channel and the Ultimate Effort channels. I know it's just the early beginnings of this stuff, but if you get in there and sub and like a few videos and maybe watch a couple sections of craziness, it really can encourage the creators like Jason and all of the Ultimate guys to keep going, and I think just that's how things are going to grow. So you guys probably saw too, I got my better website up, and I guess this comes to, talking about worlds, talking about ICRPG, comes to another sort of shameless plug that I wanted to ask you guys. You guys are the Google Plus group. You're the real of the real people, and it would be great if you can find ways to expand this circle. Expand who knows about ICRPG, both at the table and online. Because now I have the sudden strange feeling that actually this game might matter, that it might last, that it might actually be a contribution to the RPG scene. So if that's really true, then it's time to dig our heels in and like really try to grow this. Yeah. And I don't think I'm even saying that just as the author or anything like that, as a writer. I'm kind of saying it as a player too. I've recently been playing other things, and I find myself sort of just kind of wanting to rock a new ICRPG character and stuff like that. So anyway, there it is. Help me spread the word is basically the long and the short of that one. Yeah. So you're seeing me open files here. That's got to be exciting for everyone involved. This is called lack of preparation. So I just wanted to do this whole monster idea. Now I have a cutout for what I wanted to do. But then I was like, I kind of want to grab the digital version. So here I am picking through cards. You can see, you're kind of seeing behind the curtain a little bit of how the sloppy madness by which I do things. So let's grab this guy. My Metroid tribute creature. An energy draining creature from the planet N543. Okay, So there were some questions on how do you go about making a clever monster, or a sort of a monster that has something to say. That's not just a bag of 2 hearts and a melee attack, right? So I'm just gonna give myself a little room here. What? No, I want. There we go. Yeah, just want a little extra room. Boop. Don't need that no more. All right, and then I hate to be a troll, guys, but one of the ways that I do this is if I don't already just have an idea of what I want because of the situation in the game that I'm running, I get the monster roller out. I didn't make the monster roller for the book. It was a tool that I had in a text file that I was just kind of using that wound up in the book. So I'm just going to roll it really quick. This is for reals on the spot. Here we go. So I got 11. So I got mutated. That is, I thought the last one was ugly. Right, so they don't normally look like this. Okay, then next we have the motivation. That's 2 11s in a row. See what I did there? Guard, stands its ground. Okay, great. Then we have a 10. 1 weakness. Oh, I love it. And then finally, I've got a 17. Nova. Oh, shit. Every 1d4 rounds, it damages everything within far, and then use a roll to avoid it. So this thing is putting out some kind of a drain shockwave. Okay, so it does magical, and then heals for that much. And it's a Nova. So it's like... Okay, great. So the 1 weakness. This is interesting because you don't want to make hit point bags. What is the weakness? Looking at it, I think you have to... It's the nucleus. So no missiles. It's just immune to missile weapons of all kind. And nucleus. Nucleus only. There you go. That's how I'll take note of it. So this is a little micro puzzle for characters to figure out. So they shoot it with guns. They shoot it with lasers. Nothing happens. Matter of fact, maybe even heals 1 or 2 HP. They go up, they whack it with a sword. Nothing happens. They're like, we got to stop this damn thing. Somebody notices with a perception check that there's like a red blob pulsing inside of the gel sort of body of this thing. They get underneath it and stick an arc spear up in there, and then they start doing damage. Unfortunately, then it's near the tentacles. Now, this wasn't part of my hero roll, but I don't care. Tentacles. Strength escape. And I think it's hard to escape these because these are nasty looking. And then, if not, weapon. So, it's doing weapon damage to you. So, if we wanted, we could add little things like this. See this? Ouch! Right? It's got little barbs. So as it's squeezing you with the tentacles, if you can't escape, it's like scraping and digging in, and oh god, it's absolutely horrible. Okay, so then just for the sake of having no idea what I'm doing or who's going to be fighting, I'm thinking 2 hearts. Mutated. So encounter simple. So encounter simple is kind of like my note, which means on their way to seeing this one, they're going to see ones that don't have tentacles and don't do the Nova. They just have a weapon attack with the pincher, and they're just kind of floating around. But maybe they do have the 1 weakness, but they're not mutated like this. So the fun of this is teaching the players what they're up against. Even 1 weakness I would probably save for the mutant. So mutated, I do an asterisk, and that's this, the Nova, and the tentacles. So everything but guard is related to it being a mutant. And then guard is perfect because obviously this is going to stay in my art, but there's this MacGuffin back here, this transmit module. And the only way to reach it is past this thing, right? So it's guarding this little transmit module, and you guys have to get to this to establish the uplink to get the rescue ship to show up, right? So here it is. It's hovering, and I'm ready. Oh, wait. No, last thing. Rolls. Usually if I have 2 hearts, it's probably like 4 on the rolls. I usually do a +2 per heart to make life easy. So you guys have seen my monsters. I'm almost always rolling +2 on things. +4 on rolls, except effort. So I've noticed that having big pluses on damage and effort and stuff on monsters is just mega deadly. So especially since this is doing an AoE, +4 on its AoE damage is probably be completely out of hand. So I don't want to just wipe the group out, not quite yet. If they fight a big one of these, like with 3 hearts, then I wouldn't have the accept effort tag on there. I would just make it +4 on everything I roll, and so on and so forth. That's it. That's it, guys. So there aren't secrets to how this is being done. And you guys know me. The reason there aren't secrets is because there's no time, both in life as well as at the game table, to have lots of detail and lots of secrets. You guys notice I'm getting lower and lower? This dang chair, I'm going to have to fix it. So that's it. Get up here. There we go. That's better. Jeez. I feel like I'm 3 feet tall down there. So that was 6 minutes to roll up the monster and be prepared. And not only did it give me a monster, it gave me an idea for this sort of subling monster, right? So let's do the subling really quick. It would just be like this. So let's say you're hacking apart your PDF, which I know you guys do. So you've got this thing here. And then you just make your mini by just doing this. Get your black marker. Just kind of do that. Erase a little bit of it. All right, put more of these little sort of spongy things. You're done. Oh, and then you always need a shadow, right? Shadows are very useful on little paper miniatures to get your bearings on where the ground is. And then there's some little particles. There. You're done. Okay, so that was under 1 minute, and I've got a new standee that can be my game. So they're going to encounter several of these little dudes. And if you wanted to do even better, like remove some detail from the more mook versions of an enemy. So I'm just scribbling out the little dots inside the head. Some of this little highlight thing. There you go. So now he sort of looks like he's less. Another thing you can do is slightly change the shape. Like this, and it'll make him feel slightly different. So there's your new sort of different version of this more boss level guy. And then what is he called? I don't know. He's called a Drainling. Hey, whoa, there's a clue in the name. Call the cops. The Drainlings. So then there's your adventure. The Drainlings of Alpha 4. And on it goes. And I don't mean to be flippant about this creative process, but that really is it. And I know you guys are doing stuff in this way. And this is how I do stuff. I don't do it much different. So like the Aster 12 game was just ridiculously simple. And I designed that Ghost Armor character in a similar fashion. I don't like to go out there and say, oh yeah, I do like 10 minutes of prep for a session, because that's totally not true. I do much more than that. But most of it is in thinking about the whole truth and what the real sort of story nugget is of the adventure. And I don't spend most of my time on stuff like this. It's more about like being able to answer questions smartly and consistently to players is where I put most of my prep, which is probably true of you guys as well. But there is my ramshackle 8-minute breakdown on making a monster. So I just picked a card from the volume I'm using, and I rolled 4 rolls on the monster roller, and then I worked to kind of pull them together, gave it a name, made a variation, and I'm done. That's it. And I think this is the true beating heart of ICRPG, is that is not a hack junk monster. That is a perfectly legit monster that is comparable to any of the monsters you're going to get in the book. And I think that's awesome. I think that's a good sign in a game. I know with me, I have a 5e module that I was writing, and I've never finished it. It's called Flood of Fury, and I've never gotten it done because writing in 5e just became difficult to me. So, Colin Scott, yeah, the monster roller's in the table section, which is not in the hard copy yet, lives only in the PDF. So, for me, I just have that section printed out that I use. I use this section a lot, actually. That's why it's like a mess. It was stapled at one point. Those staples got torn apart. Because screw a staple, man. So that's that. That's kind of all I really wanted to throw out, was a little bit of the previews on Worlds and a little bit of the stuff on monster making. So I don't know. Is there anything on you guys' minds? You have your chance. So there's only 15 of you right now. We've got the uber advanced class here. But at this point, you guys are answering as many questions as I am. So I don't know if like calling for questions is even the right tone. What I do know is that I love this era of technology that we were able to build this together in this way. This raw, that you can see things I did 20 minutes ago before the stream and get a peek at them on this stream long before they're going to be in a book. And even the book isn't that far away because the way the new tech chain is built is just so direct. And man, compared to back in the day we would get like one new TMNT book per year, and you never get to say anything about what's going to be in the next one. Yeah, Martin Tepley, great question. There's holy magic and there's infernal magic in Ghost Mountain, and they're all new spells, and they each have a class that can only do those spells. So I've decided for Ghost Mountain to really do the opposite of the other two settings, which are very free with whoever casts spells. But this is a class, only this class gets them, and only this class gets them. And it's because they're more wildly out of control, they're more big, and there's also a formless component to both. So with both classes that unlock Holy and Infernal, they also include a little clause that says cast or create infernal magic. So there's a spell creation caveat on both classes about making your own spells. So, but there is a catch, because in Ghost Mountain, it's all about consequences, and it's all about right or wrong. Using infernal magic counts as an evil deed, and deeds are what sort of set the tone at the end of each day for what's happening in Ghost Mountain. It's like a big scale that's tipping between evil and good, and deeds are the measure of who does what and how much of it was done. So infernal magic is tempting and amazing and powerful, but it always counts as a dark deed. And that may not matter to your group. Your group may be mixed. Your group may be all sort of tending toward darkness, but that's the joy of the setting and of the campaign. Do you have... oh, sweet. Okay, let me go in order here. I'm getting a D&D club going at my high school. Any tips? Just do it. There's no tips until you get a few sessions in and find out what's great and what sucks. And just go for it, man. Just jump in there and fight goblins. Do you have any advice on how to give out loot so players have a say in what loot they choose? Oh, hell yeah. Colin Scott, you can give them a range. You can give them a choice of 2 or 3 items. You can just ask them what they want. I think I'm open to that at any time. I think they could have the thing on them and then they figure it out. And that's sort of like getting the loot roll. You found this a while ago, but you just now realize, whoa, it's a flintlock pistol. But you had to put the handle on and twist the top over and whoa, that kind of stuff. So just when it comes to loot and items and players feeling like they got a pachinko coin, be generous. Just let it happen. Don't worry about overpower or any of that stuff. Just let them have things. They're your players. They're your friends. They're what make the game fun. So just happily reward them. They won't overuse things. And even if they do, you have Imperium Ghost Armor to destroy their items. Use plugins and start your players. Oh man, yeah. Jason Scranton. So true. If you're already comfortable enough to do things like modify your D&D game, I strongly recommend modifying it downward from its height of complexity. Make it simpler for those opening sessions. But I don't know your exact details. So sometimes modifying can actually be harder than just learning it. Everybody's different. It's just the key is to sit down at the table, ask people what they want to do, what's fun, and as you feel that energy starting to sway, then introduce some little, nasty little skeletons that pop out, and then start experimenting with attack rolls, and before you know it, you're going to have a campaign with 10th level characters. Yeah. Do you have any? Yeah, cool. Hey, with 14 of you guys hanging out, it's much easier to keep up with the chat. Usually it's just like rolling by when we have 100 viewers. But it's cool to me to just be offering this only to you guys. I had a bit of an epiphany earlier this year. I guess not. It's fall, huh? I guess it was in summer, but realized just how lucky I am that the game is sticking and that the community is are people that I'm not just like, yay, I have customers. We're actually forming. I mean, the ICRPG supergroup is our sort of pirate group, and that's going to start to cascade, I think, into a campaign, and we're just having fun playing with Scotty, and you got to see our pirate game. I mean, if you're the kind of person who watches games, the pirate game is a pretty damn good watch, I must admit. It's pretty freaking funny. If you're not really a game watcher, I think it's still just exciting to realize that it isn't just readers and author. We're in it together, and we're of like minds in a strange and awesome way. It isn't just kind of, I'm this distant person you can't email. I don't want it to be like that ever. So that to me is what this sort of stream is all about. Yes, it would be much easier to get a huge number of people watching this stream and blah-de-blah, but I think there's a lot to be said for sort of earning a relationship that can last and be detailed. And it isn't just, hey guys, it's me trying to get ad revenue again. And that's just not what I'm trying to say. Is the pirate game posted? Yes, Colin Scott. It is on Jason Scranton's YouTube channel, Roll for Effort. And he even has cut the game up into little segments, so it's a little easier to watch than like 1 3-hour segment like I do. So, yeah, give that a watch. It's super hilarious. And then, oh, hey, Jason Scranton, love the Patreon. Thanks, man. Mailbag day. There's a great question from me to you guys. Should ICRPG sort of infect the Patreon? Do I want to say, hey, ICRPG guys, you really do want to be over here on Patreon to get the sort of the latest ICRPG jam? So far, I have not crossed that threshold. Because usually everyone in the ICRPG world is already supporting me by buying the book. So I didn't know if I felt totally groovy with saying also go over to Patreon. But Jason, if you think so, then that could be a fun talk over there too. There's definitely lots to talk about in ICRPG about interpretation of the game is what I see the most questions about. I think people are sometimes a little disoriented when they start because it just all seems a little too easy. And they're kind of waiting for the shoe to drop. Like, what did I miss in this system? Why is this going so smoothly? You should do it. But because, Zuriel, no doubt, right? Here's something to consider. Patreon is working on the ability to easily run multiple Patreon campaigns. So you could set up second Patreon for ICRPG. That is true. I am so totally overwhelmed with projects and things to do. I will not do that. Sorry. It will all just be Runehammer. As you guys know, I am one person. I am not a company. And in some ways, I sort of compete with companies. So that's why I got to lean on you guys. And like, you guys help me proof and you guys help me refine rules and stuff like that because I'm just one dude. It should be a blend. I want to stay inclusive with ICRPG, spread the word. The craft stories are so great. Yeah, the crafted stories are really fun. To me, they're what really bring a sort of a world or a campaign right into crisp focus. So Ghost Mountain will continue to live on Patreon. So that's going to be an inscrutable link. I think it would be cool to have story-based characters and loot for the Patreon. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, loot. Yeah, specific loot is something that's you almost can never have enough of. Having loot that fits even a particular adventure just will always make everything seem more tightly stitched together. So this appetite for new and different loot is huge, even though a lot of people never even read the loot that's already there. So we can play the stuff we read. Right. Makes sense. Well, we're coming in on the end, guys. I hope that was a juicy peek into Ghost Mountain and into Worlds. Don't pick up the jar of flies. Oh man, Jar of Flies is crazy. I basically wrote that story in my head when I was walking around the middle of the night at Gen Con in this kind of city where I didn't know anybody. And I don't know. I just had this thought of like this demonic creature who's walking in these pillars, and the pillars are sort of the space between life and death and heaven and hell. And then every once in a while he inhabits someone, and it happens to be this little girl. And crazy. So Victor, hey, that's cool. You're gonna be out there. That's great. Yeah, man. Let's play some Ghost Mountain out there. I think it's gonna be dope. Also, this isn't specific to ICRPG, but I will be debuting Xenomorph Dead Zone at Tucson Comic Con as well. So that's the other game that I'm going to run, is a little table of Xenomorph Dead Zone for a few hours. And that game can range from 10 minutes to 2 hours, depending on how you play it. It can be very deadly or very survivey. So that's my first foray into board games. And we'll see. It's sort of a co-op Xenomorph game. But that's about it. So thanks all 15 of you for tuning in for an hour. And this week is huge. Tomorrow night we've got Twilight of the Thunder God, which is a game that I'm running. It's about Thor going insane. And then Thursday night we have DM Scotty hosting the Strange Tales ICRPG with the super group from the Pirate Adventure. And then I think it sounds like it's a go, but that group sounds like we're going to be doing a weekly campaign, and we might switch DMs and switch themes, but it sounds like we might have a weekly freaking game on our hands, which is awesome. So it just so happens that my table groups have a little bit dissipated here coming into fall, and I kind of thought to myself, maybe I should just do an online group and like go deep on it. And to go deep on a group, you guys know how it is. You got to play weekly. You got to keep that like relationship strong. And I think it sounds like we're a green light on that. So lots of games ahead for this fall. It is going to be a blast. I can't wait to see all this stuff sort of seep out and make things crazier. So want a special salute to Chris Hatley as well, who sound like went through hell and high water to host a 26-person game at a bar in the UK. That is a huge and epic way to get the game out and get the voice out. And just I can't imagine the psycho awesomeness of drinking beer with 24 people and trying to run games and stuff. It's just nutso. Hey, Eric Sheely, what's up? Yeah, we're about to wrap it up, but this will be archived. So that's about it, everybody. I'm going to get the hell out of here. I got Twilight of the Thunder God to figure out for tomorrow night. I'm not quite done with it. And obviously more work on Worlds. But, I mean, it's kind of the end of the day. It's about time to drink some beer. So that's what I got to do tonight. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. And please be sure to look down in the description below. I'm not sure if it's on this one, but patreon.com/Runehammer. Go over there, and if you can, throw a few ducats in the skull for my Patreon. It's the best way to keep the whole damn crazy ball rolling down the hill. So thanks, everybody, for tuning in, and I will see you out in the stratosphere. Or I might see you on the surface. It depends. Where's that beautiful bean footage to escort us out of here? Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. I'll see you next time, all right?